Welcome into the Movie Man. I'm Eric Stafford, and this is
Keegan Matheson.
And we're just going to talk movies. A lot of times, folks have asked us, you do different shows about different things with the movies, but this time we're just going to talk. We're just going to talk and talk about our experiences with the films and just have a nice little chit chat, and you get to join in. Now, talking movies, I guess a lot of us are at home. We're watching movies. We're not really going to the movies. Mm-hmm. Do you miss going to the movies?
Absolutely. I used to go to the movies almost every weekend with my girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Just something to do.
Yeah, but you went a lot. Well, this time of year I'm missing it because I would kind of go with the summer blockbusters and that stuff. So,
Definitely.
So this time of year I'm already like, the Avengers used to start in May.
Right.
So I'm getting a little antsy about that. But I guess Black Widow is the next thing coming up. Marvel that would be. But everybody's betting their horses on a movie called Tenet.
Christopher Nolan, my favorite director.
And what all is Christopher Nolan directed, for those that don't know?
The Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, The Prestige, Memento.
I still haven't seen Memento. I did pick it up this week, but I haven't seen it. But Guy Pearce, Carrie Ann Moss, guy can't remember anything, writes notes all over himself apparently. Mm-hmm. That's all I know about it.
You basically got it. It's told from the end of the movie to the beginning.
Yeah, so it's backwards. He's trying to figure out what actually happened. But I just wondered about that, about going to the movies, because I'm starting to miss it, but I'm not there yet. I'm still watching a lot of stuff, and there's been so much that's been coming out home-wise.
Exactly, on Netflix.
Even home, we still buy movies. We buy the physical copy of the movie. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of content that way, too.
And a lot of stuff is getting sold out really quickly because everybody's stuck at home and they want a physical copy of it. And I love that. I
did hear that Blu-ray players' sales have gone up.
That's great.
So that's good to know. Now, Blu-ray has never replaced DVD. DVD is still the number one media format that's out there. So the fact that Blu-ray's kind of getting a little bit of a jump,
right, is
a cool thing.
Very cool.
And then on top of that, you got 4K. Some people have 4K, some people don't.
I was surprised that Blu-ray players really haven't come down that much. Like that, when they first came out with the Blu-ray technology, they were like, what, $350 to get a basic player, and now they're, I don't know, $100. So within time, that's been out almost 15 years. Blu-ray?
Yeah, but if you get like just a Blu-ray player, not a 4K, then it's right around $59, $69.
Yeah,
so in that respect, it's cheaper, But yeah, the first Blu-ray player I had was a PS3, so I had the PS3, and that was kind of a gateway. A lot of people were upset when PS4 didn't support 4K.
Yeah.
Now PS5 is going to,
which is great.
So that's kind of something to look forward to. When does PS5 come out? Christmas?
It's slated for an October release.
Yeah, I got to be ready for Christmas. So we'll be looking for that. I'm sure that'll be on one of my children's buying list.
Hopefully in October you can go to the store and actually purchase one in person.
Hopefully, but after all this COVID stuff and
October,
might be pushing it, but we'll see. But anyway, definitely something coming out. They might wait until March, the next year's March, which is what Nintendo always does.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Nintendo's always release in March, so they wait till after Christmas, after they've sold you the latest DS.
Switch now.
Whatever, Switch or DS, so you bought that, and then the new one comes out in March, and then you have like all that time until Christmas. That they sell it, but that's where they make their money.
Right.
So, and they're obviously making money. They're doing it right.
Absolutely.
They're doing it right.
What would Nintendo's movie look like if they made a movie?
Hopefully not like the original Mario Brothers movie
If you've not
with
seen
John
that,
Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins.
you got to look up the Goombas and what they look
Yeah,
like.
the
in that
Goombas,
movie.
and it's all bad. It was all bad. Although I have heard some people my age or a little younger than me say that they saw it as a kid and they just loved that movie, and then they were disappointed that the game wasn't that way.
Bless
and I'm
their
like,
hearts.
yeah, it's a lot. The game's a lot more fun.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another thing about Nintendo, which has always got me about Nintendo is Nintendo takes a long time to release games.
Right.
But when Nintendo releases games, they have a repeat play value that you want to keep playing them. It's not the fly-by-night, whatever movie of the week game that comes out. It's not that kind of stuff. They really develop it and try to find a playability and try to find something you're going to keep playing for a while.
Right.
So, and overall, I do think Nintendo's games are better in that way.
Yeah.
I think the other consoles are a little like, "Ooh, let's get this out. Yeah, we're going to have a combat game where we run around. We're going to shoot stuff."
And they're mass produced, and they really don't resell that much for much.
Yeah.
All the PlayStation, because they're overproduced and they're on every console. So it's like.
But I'm just like, I'm totally out of touch with video games because when Minecraft come out, I thought this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then, because it was basically like build your own
You don't like
block
the 8-bit
game.
style?
No, build your own game. And then on top of that, then they come out with, doing all this random, world chasing stuff. And then, when Fortnite come out, then I was like, it's like a really cartoony version of, another game. It's not really that great.
Right.
But obviously Eric was wrong. if Eric thinks it's a stupid video game, then it's going to make millions.
It's going to make millions.
It's going to make millions. So I'm kind of a reverse judge of that. No. I like the problem solving ones. I liked like the original God of War and stuff like that, where you solved the problem and then you got through it and then you went to the next level and there was a whole story. I like that a lot better. It's all contained and not running around and I beamed into this world and somebody shot me in the head. Now it's over with. Start the game again. Start the game again. I think that's boring. That's so boring to me.
What was the when you went to the arcades? What was the game where it was like that? You had to just restart to the beginning. I'm pretty sure there's a.
They were all that way. All the games were that way. So you plunked down your quarter and
Dragon's
you played
Quest.
for how long you could. What?
Dragon's Quest, like in Stranger Things, they go to the arcade, Palace Arcade, and they play this game over and over. Is that Dragon's Quest that they keep? And they had to put quarters in every time. They'd have to restart the game all over again.
Yeah, all the games were that way. They had no memory and they had no backup. So you put a quarter in and you were, unless it was a game where it kind of gave you a countdown that you got 10 seconds to get a quarter in or something, then it continued the game. I think Gauntlet was that
Capitalism at
way.
its finest.
I think Gauntlet by Sega was that way, that you were like, Conan or somebody else, and there was like 4 of you in your little Dungeons and Dragons band, and you went across the screen, and then it's like, oh, you're dying, throw me a quarter. And then you could kind of continue it. So that was even like, that probably had to be like 86, 87, had to be something a little later. But I remember there was and it's still out there, Dragon's Lair.
There you go.
Yeah, Dragon's Lair is kind of the, where you were Dirk the Daring, and it was animated by Don Bluth, and it was all on a Laserdisc player. And my sisters used to work at a game room here in town called the Mouse House, which is now, it was in front of Family Dollar on Morgan Boulevard. But anyway, the entrance, because Barrel of Fun had the big barrel, the entrance was a big piece of cheese. And so you walked through the door. It wasn't outside. You couldn't see it outside. But when you walked through the door, the interior area was a big piece of Swiss cheese.
Green Bay Packer fans are going.
And there was lights in the holes in the Swiss cheese, so you could see through the Swiss cheese. You could actually see into the arcade and see all that. But my sisters both worked there. They were older than I was. And I would do posters for the people that owned it, like of what new games were coming or something like that, and they'd give me tokens. So I got tokens and free plays like I never bought. My family never bought like the Nintendo.
Okay.
Well, I bought my own Nintendo. I bought the one with Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers.
Right.
But they never bought anything before that. They never bought Atari or anything because it was like those were lackluster.
Video game consoles in the house?
They were so lackluster compared to what was at the video game place that you were just like, at the arcade, that you were just like, why would I spend my money on that?
Right.
So, especially $100, over $100. Nope, not happening.
We're talking about video games today. I know.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's kind of going everywhere, and I said that we would kind of like just chit chat and talk about different things.
Speaking of video games, Sonic the Hedgehog was the last movie I saw in theaters.
Well, there you go. And I hear that Jim Carrey did a really good job.
Fantastic job.
What's the
Dr. Eggman.
Dr. Eggman. Okay.
Dr. Eggman.
And I did play. I think the first handheld I had was a Sega handheld because it was in color. And so I did wait until I could get in color, and it still had no memory, and you would die as Sonic and have to come back.
That's fancier than I had. I had the Game Boy, just the regular Game Boy. It was yellow.
Yeah.
And it didn't have a backlight on it, so you had to play it next to the light.
Oh my goodness. No, I was I saw the Sega and it came out and I really wanted it, and it's funny that I was dating my wife and we both had one. So we both had a Sega, and if you were in range of each other, you could play against each other. If you were close enough, you could play against each other. But
wireless play.
Wireless play, and I think it was wireless play. I don't, or maybe we were passing them off. I don't even remember. It's been so long. We're probably passing it off. But I had a Ren and Stimpy game, had a Spider-Man game, and so it had to be 93 or 94. Something like that. So, but anyway, that was the first handheld that I bought.
So just 26 years ago.
Yeah, that's all. Just a few years ago. Just a few years ago. And but it had no memory as well. You know, when you play those video games, it had no memories, and you just started right over, start right back.
It's a pain.
But I can still, to this day, I can play Miss Pac-Man for probably an hour.
So can my mom.
Without dying.
She's great at that.
So yeah, I can go for a while. It used to be a thing when you would go to lunch. When I go to lunch with people I worked with, and if they had a Miss Pac-Man machine, they'd be like, "Okay, he's gone. He's done."
Right. I think from 65 to like 73, people are amazing at Pac-Man. If you're born in those years.
Now the original Pac-Man, I was always bad at. I was never good at that. I always liked Dig Dug. I love Dig Dug, which. There are some weird games I like too. There was a game called Berserk, which was kind of like a map, and you ran around and just shot people. And these very Steve Ditko-like Doctor Strange guys would come up and shoot you with their laser eyes and stuff. And it was I loved it because of that. It was so close to a Doctor Strange comic book. But anyway, I mean, we just I've dabbled in the video games, but I've never been full on.
Just going to GameStop every day, Eric.
Not every day. I could go around and look. Now they sell other stuff other than games, so I really could go every day. But and now that they got curbside service, can't get in.
How about that?
So, but yeah, and I have been since all that. Brent got something and my son got something, and I had to go get it. I was like, go to the door and pick it up. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, come on, dude, you're the one that wanted it. But anyway, I went and picked it up or whatever, but he sat in the car. He wouldn't go up to the door. I was like, okay, it's all right. But the action figures and stuff in there, oh man, and movie stuff.
They do have movie
stuff. They do have a lot of stuff, and so I like going there.
How much longer do you think that brick and mortar stores will still exist? And we'll just transfer over to digital only? When do you think that?
Well, when they've made a point of making it that way, because I was a big person into the PlayStation Portable,
right? The
PSP, and I made the PSP Go, and I bought one. I don't have it now, but I bought one. I wish I still did have it. It's not the best screens in the world now that I've gone back and looked at them, but everybody freaked out because Sony was just going to sell you the game direct like that. Mm-hmm. And so the brick and mortars got mad, like Walmart and GameStop got mad, and they wouldn't support it. And so that's why it died out. But it was like, you got it on the PlayStation Store, and then you had the game, and that was it. You didn't have to There was no middleman. There was no product. There was no middleman.
And Sony's like, yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, bank, bank, bank. Yeah. So, but anyway, they really offended the brick and mortars and like Walmart and all the different stores at the time, Circuit City, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I still think the PSP had the most unique game cartridge with the little disc inside of the little plastic.
Sony's always trying to come up with something, and they hope they scored with Blu-ray. Okay, they scored with Blu-ray, and they were always trying to get that score. It's like, you know, the other people had the HD. I don't even remember what they were called, but they were HD disc, but they were in a red box.
HD DVDs?
Yeah, it was like an HD DVD. And, you know, I remember at CES that year, at the Consumer Electronics Show, that they were like, oh, no, it was actually the game one. It was the game one. What's the game one that everybody goes to? That's like in
E3?
May or June. Yeah, it's like E3. Okay, so E3 that year, everybody said, oh, it's over. The digital wars are over. They've decided that it's Blu-ray, and they decided it that weekend. And everybody, I mean, there was a lot of folks I knew had an Xbox 360 with that adapted HD player that had a separate plug-in HD player. And it was like, you know, I knew a lot of people that invested some serious bank in that before that, you know, just like Betamax and VHS. I knew some people that invested a lot in those movies.
And you see any sort of different, like we have 4K Ultra HD. That's the updated up to date hardware that we have right now. So you see anything coming in like 8K players and that?
Well, they're saying there's 8K. They've made 8K, but you know, I don't know.
You don't think it'll?
No, because I think 4K right now is such a niche market that it's not really getting that much support.
Right.
So there are guys like me and you that will pick it up, but I think they're cut their own throat if they keep developing system after system after system. And so many people stream now.
4K might be the last physical media we have as far as...
It could be, but you know, I mean, people are always going to clamor for it. Even like, you know, I have Laserdisc in the office, and there's still some people that like Laserdisc. And not me in particular, somebody gave them to me, I'm sorry. But there are some folks that still like Laserdisc. I've heard that DVD never got the sound right, that the new systems don't sound as good as the analog audio from that. So I've still heard people
Dolby
say
Atmos.
No, well, yeah. Well, it's got the Dolby, but you know. And that's another thing. A lot of 4K stuff, it'll say HDR. When you start playing it, even when you're streaming, you go to Disney Plus and start streaming, it'll bring it up on the TV, HDR, that it's in some kind of HDR.
4K light, because it's streaming over the internet.
Because it's streaming, so it's not that great, but you know. And that's another thing is like with all the everybody being at home and you having like power problems. We've had a lot of storms lately here around here and things, and I just popped in my little disc and it wasn't trying to read it off the internet, and I didn't have to worry about that. So
speaking of like formats and what it looks like, what's the best looking movie you've seen
off of the 4K? Sadly, the best looking movie I don't think was 4K.
Really?
I guess the best looking 4K that I have is Far From Home. It's Spider-Man Far From Home. And that's the first one we bought.
Mysterio.
That's the first one we bought. But I will say I bought Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson on Blu-ray, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Now, Justice League Dark, The Apocalypse War, we both have bought that. It's a DC direct-to-video movie. Animated. And we both bought that, and both bought the Blu-ray, because we both bought the Steelbook. But when the Blu-ray came out, if you buy it at Target, it's in an exclusive Steelbook.
Right.
If you buy it in 4K, it's $5 more, and it's not got a steelbook.
Right.
So, and my wife even said, because she was buying me movies for my birthday, she's like, they make you make that choice, 4K or the collectible steelbook. And I said, yes, they make you make that choice. And one of them's $5 more. So I went with the exclusive to Target only steelbook
Right.
and did that, but it still looked beautiful. I've been watching a lot of those, especially animated movies, especially that flat color animation like that. The DVDs look great on my Blu-ray player and
Really?
my 4K player, so I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. But it was even sharper, and I had to stop and think, now which one did I get? Did I get the 4K or did I get the Blu-ray? No, I got the Blu-ray.
Honestly, 2D animation, 4K, I don't know if it's that much big. I mean, what would you say? Is that a bigger step up?
It's a slider step up.
Slider.
People say that it's like if you go from VHS to DVD, that's a big step. That's a big jump. But if you go, because you're talking 640 pixels to 720,
Right.
or up to 1080.
Right.
Close to 1080. Well, 1080 I guess is, 1080. But then we do, the stuff we edit is 1920.
Right.
So that's Blu-ray is 1920, so it's an even bigger amount of pixels instead of 640, so that makes it that big. And so when you go from VHS to Blu-ray, that's a huge leap.
Right.
So if you're watching that, you can kind of tell. People over 50 like myself, your eyes start to deteriorate. There's something called presbyopia that everybody just has normal aging of their eyes. They can't really tell that big a difference between Blu-ray and 4K.
Right.
But you can tell a big difference between DVD and Blu-ray. You can see that. You can see the VHS. So it's different things. And if you see the OLED TV hanging up in Walmart and it's showing like, oh gosh, starfish is magnified and stuff like that. It's really sharp even to me, but you're just like, do you really want to spend $2,000 on a TV?
Right. Well,
So
let's do it.
yeah, if you got $2,000 lying around, then that's one way to go. But
It's so beautiful. My eyes are bleeding.
Yes, the picture's so sharp, it cut my eyes. But yeah, it's so that is something that you kind of have to judge. But there's so many, there's even now, I'm still buying DVDs. I bought DVDs, like I said, I recently had a birthday, and so I got a lot of birthday money. I was buying a lot of movies, and I bought a lot.
Nice to know you still get birthday money at your age.
Well, yeah,
Nice
you kind of got to do something.
Nice to know it doesn't stop.
You kind of got to do something. Now, my dad gave me money, which that's nice. He's always done that.
Hey.
So my dad gave me money. My sister got me something. You don't get a lot of stuff.
There's hope for us.
There's hope. You don't get a lot of stuff. Now, if you're that into it, then if you're that worried about the birthday thing, then you need to set back your own money and just say,
Right.
if you're worried about not getting it, then you need to save up and then give yourself a present. But maybe that OLED TV. Anyway, I still picked up a lot of DVDs because some of the films just aren't available on Blu-ray, like Jimmy Neutron.
No.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier.
Absolutely. You gotta
Not
have
that
the
either one of us
chicken
are
dance.
fans of Jimmy Neutron, but
You gotta have the chicken dance in
but
1080.
you happen to be looking on the internet at Jimmy Neutron and.
Right.
It wasn't available on Blu-ray. If you want to see the Jimmy Neutron movie, you gotta
buy the DVD.
You gotta buy that DVD.
Oh.
It's not available.
It's a sad day.
In a 4K thing.
Format.
It's not in that Blu-ray format. And there's a lot of movies that are just now coming out to Blu-ray. There's a couple of Doctor Who. There was some Doctor Who movies in the '60s with Peter Cushing in them, and they're available in England, but they're just now getting ready to be released. I think in July here in America. You could pick up the UK release because it was like a world release.
Right.
It was available in all regions, but now these have like the posters for the cover, a
Right.
slipcase, and all this nice stuff.
They can do anything to get the mighty dollar.
Yeah, and of course Amazon tags you and says, "Hey, you might be interested in this," so let you know that it's coming out. So,
Darn you, Bezos.
So that Bezos. I remember when they bought the name Amazon because it was a bookstore in Minneapolis or something, and they bought the name.
Oh, I'm sure they didn't. They paid so much less than.
Oh yeah, it was probably that, but it was something. Yeah, it was something like that. I was part of Hickory Community Theater. They had HCT because Hickory Community Theater.
Yeah.
That HCT.org. And some big company out west
Right.
paid them like 10 grand or something for the
Right.
org.com or whatever. I guess it was hct.com. And they paid them all that money for that. And they basically, told everybody in the organization, they're like, well, I know you volunteered, I know you help out, and I know it's going to make it longer when you're typing out the web address, which who types out a web address now? You save all your little clicks and everything. You don't really type it out. It's a bookmark. Yeah, you don't really type it out. But anyway, they were like trying to pander us and say, we're sorry, but they were going to give us 10 grand. For arts organization, you're like, yeah, take the 10.
Take the 10 grand.
Take the 10 grand. Go with that.
We're buying actual costumes this time for the play.
Yeah, for this. I actually did a play in 91 or something, and they rented the costumes. I think that's the only time I've done a play where they rented the costumes. Mm-hmm. It was really weird because it was like, here are these fancy costumes.
Well, how do you do sizes that way?
It's so bad that they have them in sizes.
Oh, okay.
Like you measure your lead or whoever, right, and then they get that costume in that size, and it's really odd.
They don't have the Phantom costume in an extra small.
No, they probably don't have it in a 3XL either. It's one of those things. We're hoping you don't cast this as a 3XL man, but. If you do, we know he's got the pipes, but does he have the look? So, but anyway, that was probably the only show I've done in 20-some years of doing plays that I had a rented costume, which was kind of odd. So, or had a lot of costumes in that show.
Did you get to keep any of the costumes?
No, of course not.
It's
rented. It goes back. Now there's been shows. You do plays and stuff like that, and you end up with an odd pair of shoes here that you got from this show, and the
so
odd shirt or something. It's like that's going home with me. that's going home with me. I ain't leaving that here. But that would happen because a lot of the stuff that especially HCT has a huge costumer, but they and if you do. I sound confusing because I am. But if you do a lot of shows and you're doing a lot of shows all the time, right, then you're like, well, those brown pants fit me. They're coming home with me. In case I need brown pants for another show.
Right.
Or something like that.
If you could have one play that's kind of not been made into a great movie, but could make a great movie, what play would that be?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. And I'm of the mind that plays don't make good movies.
Okay.
Because look at Cats.
They're made.
That just happened. Cats. Yeah. And I'm tempted to buy that in 4K just to see what it looks like.
That's a lot of furry.
That's scary. A lot of furry singers. Yeah. But anyway, plays don't tend to do well or musicals don't tend to do well as movies. It's really hard. It's hard to.
What about the other way around? Do you think that some movies can make good plays?
Oh, yeah, very easily. That could be, yeah. And there's something about a live audience that people, we talk about 4K, we talk about HD, and you talk about all this stuff. Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring the people into your house and put on a play for you, just like if you went to a play. Right. And when people go and see plays that have never gone to see a play, they're like, I'm not doing that. It's $25 a person. Are you insane?
Right.
I'm not doing that. And then they go to the play, and then they're like, that was fabulous. that was stupendous.
Television.
It was like, yeah. And there used to be a saying in the theater that a bad night at the theater is still better than a great night of television.
Oh, wow.
So.
They must have never saw Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, we'll let that lie. We'll just let that go. But anyway, it's all about trying to get that 3D experience almost. People tried to 3D and stuff like that, but when you got somebody, especially in a cabaret show where you're sitting, like we're sitting at this table, and there's a guy that's like, not even another table length away that's singing, right, or a guy and a girl singing a romantic song to each other, right, and you're like, you're there in the moment. But another thing about that in small theaters and performing, when you cuss, in the script, people actually take offense. Right. Because it feels like you're cussing them. Yeah. Right. And people don't really realize that. So when you do a play that has a lot of cursing in it, and every theater I've ever worked with would pretty much tone it down. Not because they thought it was necessarily bad, but when you hear like so many bad words and it's like,
Right.
you know, it was so intimate, especially at Foothills Performing Arts in Hudson. Now they've moved to Lenore High School.
Right.
But at the time they had a small black box theater on CCC and TI campus, and you were so close that people's feet were touching the stage. Where you're standing. So, I mean, you were right there. And me and my wife directed a murder mystery called And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And throughout the whole thing, because it was written in the 30s, they smoke.
Right.
They smoke, and people get shot because there's 10 people and they all got to die. It's kind of like a Friday the 13th movie.
Oh.
And so you're trying to figure out who the murderer is. But I did two things in that. I made the people smoke. I made the people actually smoke, even caused one guy to start smoking again, which I'm very sorry about.
Oh, no.
He has since passed on, but it's not from lung cancer. And but I did ask him to smoke, and he did start back smoking so that he could do it, because you constantly had, in the script it said, he goes and gets a cigarette. He goes and gets a cigarette, because cigarettes were at a fireplace. He goes to the fireplace and gets a cigarette. But there was also the gunshots. And I was like, I'd seen so many high school plays where they come out with the cap gun and they go, no.
You gotta
no,
bang.
it's not scary. So I had a friend that coached track, and he gave me a starter pistol.
Starter pistol.
And so I had the starter pistol, and all the sound from a starter pistol, the barrel's solid, and all the sound from the starter pistol comes back on you, whoever shoots it. So that's why when you see those guys fire, they go, because it actually spits a little bit of the powder and stuff back on your hand. So you go, because it was so loud, and it actually comes back to you. But in that little black box theater, when it was all dark and it was lightning and stuff like that, and the guy walks up to shoot the guy in the head, and my actors were too good, but they would put it right up to the guy's head.
Oh,
and I was like, there was no way for him to get hurt,
right.
but I still didn't like it.
Right.
And he would put the gun to the guy's head. Both of these fellas are dead now. Isn't that horrible? But both these guys are gone. But he would put the gun to his head and then pull the trigger, and it would scare me every night. I was sitting in the light booth, and I was like, because, but it would make the ladies scream in the audience, and I loved that. I love that, because it was a scary play. It's supposed to be scary, and if you hear that little ping, little cap gun ping, it ain't nothing. But, somebody walks up, bam! You're like, oh, somebody got a gun in the house. Something's going on.
We went to go to Valdez, and they had the Waldensian play.
And they shoot like crazy.
They shoot like crazy in that.
Lots of guns in the Waldensian play.
And I was pretty young when we went, and there's blood, there's everything. There's
there's blood. They're burning people, burn people on crosses and stuff.
Yeah, and we're like, what is this? But it's just going to show that live action stuff really is more impressionable than seeing it in a movie. That's for sure.
Now, when I started dating Kathy, my wife, I was taking a director's workshop at Hickory Community Theater, and she was in the Waldensian play, From This Day Forward. And she had got cast in From This Day Forward. I'd got offered a part, and then I was like, I ain't driving all the way to Valdez to do that, because I think the gas was a little high.
Oh.
And I was not driving from Lenore to Valdez, but I actually worked in Hickory, so it wasn't that big a deal to be in Hickory. So I never did do the Waldensian play, so I think I've missed that one. That would be a good movie. The Waldensian play would be a good movie.
There you go. We found one.
That is a good movie. That would be a good movie. But anyway, she would rehearse, and they have to sing, and they have to dance, and they do all this stuff out in this open amphitheater, which is outside, and red clay mud. And she came to watch me and another friend who was doing this director's workshop. They were doing a lot of little plays with us directing. And this friend of ours, so she had a couple of friends that was in it. So after she got through with rehearsal, she took the short drive from Valdez to downtown Hickory, and she came over and was watching us, direct and do our little plays. And she was like, oh, that was good, that was good. And we were all sitting around, and as theater people often do, you go out for a drink after the show's over. So there's like a pub in Hickory, there's McGuire's, which went out of business during all this COVID stuff. But
Really?
hopefully, yeah, so hopefully somebody will start it back. I think somebody's starting it back. But anyway, that's other gossip. But you would go to McGuire's, and if you were of age and had money, then you'd buy a pitcher of beer, and then all your poor friends or who didn't get paid that week could have a beer. So you would always buy like, I want a pitcher of beer and some chips. So we go to McGuire's with Kathy, and we're all sitting there talking about, we're directing our little play, and this came out all right, and this came out all right, and we're like, well, how's the Waldensian play going? And she goes, well, and she does like this, and then her forehead is clean. And she had danced in the red mud all night to where she had red mud dust all over her. Well, we all busted out laughing. We're sitting there drinking, duh. And so we all bust out laughing, and she was like, I'm quitting this show. I'm quitting this show. And she did. She did quit the show because she was like, y'all are indoors in cold places, and we're suffering in the heat. And I was like, I thought that was so funny. But she also had a really staunch director that year, and he was saying, go 2 steps, turn, and say your line.
One of those.
Yeah, one of those almost telling you how to do it.
Yeah.
The magic of theater, children, being as we've gone off on this tangent, the magic of theater is that the whole community brings something to the theater. So what you do is, the magic of the theater is that this moment will never happen again.
Right.
So all these people and this mix of people and what they bring is what makes it special. So what you do as a director, and what I learned from the great Steve Bean, who worked here at Underdown Flowers and Hickory Art Museum. He was a very well-known artistic guy and at Foothills for years. But he taught me this. It's who you have participating at the time and what they bring to the table, and that is the magic. That's the moment, and that moment can never be recreated because these people are all here at this time, this one instant, doing this live theater. That's the magic. So when you have somebody that's not particularly good at lines or not particularly good at their part, you don't jump their case because they're doing their best and they're bringing what they bring.
Right.
And you might do that play again. Say I did Guys and Dolls twice. It's the only show I've done twice. And it was different each time. I played the same part in both productions.
Shout out to the Hot Box Girls.
And the chickies. But anyway, you bring that, it's that group of people at that time. And I did it like 6 or 7 years apart, and did one in Hickory and one in Hudson, and it was totally different. I did it with some of the same people from Hickory, but it was a totally different production, and it was a totally different feel. I think I got it better the second time. I think I understood the part better. But there was some moments in the first one I thought was better. So it ebbs and flows.
Right.
And it's a different show every night. If you go to see a play, it's a different show every night. You could have one of the leads like stump their toe right before they went on. Mm-hmm. And then so they're walking around going, man, my foot is killing me. And so they're not thinking of their lines, they mess up their lines. And that's another thing. If you ever think, I left the stove on, then it's over because you've totally lost character, you're thinking about the stove at home, and you're going to mess up, and you do every time. It just happens. You can't go there.
Right.
And if you have distractions at home, it's really hard to do theater. And I've done productions when family members have passed away, and you have to, and then there's a funeral scene in the play. And you have to either, that guy deserves an Oscar or a Tony, right. Or, you have to distance yourself and say, well, I got to get this done. And then in 2 hours, then I can worry about my personal life. I can worry about that later. So it's really, you do have to train a little bit, even in community theater here. You do have to kind of...
Working for that K Award.
Well, I never got the K Award. I've got a ensemble K Award. So I never got an individual K Award. And I've never got a lead.
That's like winning Best Picture, though, right?
It kind of is. In this area, it's harder to do probably than any other acting award.
Really?
To win a lead K in one of these things, yeah, that's a big deal. And Ralph Mangum from WHKY, I think he's got like 3 or 4.
What's the porcelain one, right?
Yes, it's Highland Porcelain Company made them.
Wow.
And it is made of Kay, I don't remember her last name, but anyway, she was an actress at Hickory Community Theater, and she committed suicide.
So in honor of her.
So there you go. So, and I've heard her head pops off really easy, so be careful with your kale. I've heard the head just pops right off.
I love the bases we've gone down here. Video
So it's all over the place, and that's kind of what this was supposed to be. This is just a conversation, and that's what we're advertising this as a conversation. But we're talking a little bit about everything. But we just happens to be the movie men,
right?
And we're talking about everything. So it's kind of any kind of question kind of thing. That being said, if you want to ask us any questions, you can email me at eStafford@caldwellcountync.org, and it's right there on the bottom of your screen. And you can email me and ask us any question. Hey, we'll answer it.
Absolutely.
We're not crazy. We might be really nice about the way we answer it and not be blunt, but but we do work for the county.
Right.
So you want to have that right. But we will. You want to do it proper. But we will answer any question about anything, I think. I think we're pretty open. So is there any movies that you know of coming up that you're just like...
excited for?
Yeah, dying to see.
They were going to make an Uncharted movie, which I really love the video game. Speaking of video game, Uncharted, fantastic video game. PlayStation. They knocked
but who is the guy?
It'd be Tom Holland, Nathan Drake.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it was going to be a good movie, but I guess that's not happening anymore. But I'm excited for the Batman, of course, because Batman's the best.
Well, what about Wonder Woman? That's almost ready to happen. WW84.
Right. That's like been teased since Christmas. It's been teased since Christmas, and now it won't come out till what, July?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You gotta draw that.
But I
out.
love the poster for that movie. The poster looks fantastic.
They even have like a Zoom backgrounds of Wonder Woman that you can, if you're having your Zoom meeting.
Your Zoom meeting?
If you're having your Zoom meeting, you can put your Wonder Woman, you go to DC and get your backgrounds.
Right.
And you can have your, all kinds of strange people walking through the studio. But, anyway, you can get your Wonder Woman Zoom backgrounds. And they have the Batcave, they've got Metropolis, they've got it all. So even like Apocalypse from the Apocalypse War. So. And that was a pretty good movie.
Yep.
That was a pretty good movie. But is there anything else? I guess Black Widow's coming out. So we have
Dune's coming out.
Dune's coming out at Christmas, which is just like, Christmas present. So I liked the first Dune movie, and that's what got me interested in Dune. Now I'm a Dune fan, and a lot of people hate that movie.
Right.
So I'm in good standing.
There's another movie I'm excited about that's coming out.
What's that?
And it's not going to theaters. It's coming out on demand. So it's Pete Davidson. Do you know him from SNL? He does.
Yeah.
He's coming out with a movie called The King of Staten Island.
Yeah, I've seen trailers for that.
I'm excited to see that. And I know it's not a theatrical release, but I think it'll be a good movie. It stars my favorite comedian, Bill Burr. So.
Oh, okay.
I love it.
Well, I know that there's nothing this young man has done to me, this Pete Davidson, and I hear he's very depressive in what social media stuff that I've looked at, but I don't see it.
What, his talent?
Yeah, he's just there.
Maybe he's good. Maybe he's good in this movie.
Well, he might prove me wrong, and that's okay. He'll be right up there with Minecraft and Fortnite and prove me wrong. That's okay.
Right.
But, I'm just saying, I'm not seeing it. He'll
do it for you?
Yeah. And then on top of it, then I hear Pete Davidson, and I think Peter Davidson. I'm thinking Doctor Who. So then I'm like, oh, that's not Pete Davidson. Oh, it's a Pete Davidson.
It's kind of been a lull for everything. I mean, everything's been put on hold.
Well, it's kind of been teased, not tempted, but I'd say teased, that because the studios don't have any new content coming to Blu-ray and 4K and all that stuff, that they might dig in the vault a little bit and try to get some stuff that people have been thinking about. So by Christmas, October, we might have a lot of stuff we've been waiting on.
Speaking of that, Justice League. Snyder Cut.
Snyder Cut.
So if
Well, it says 2021.
Right.
So that's all next year, man.
Right.
That's next year. But I think it's time for him to put up or shut up. I don't think they had a completed thing. I think he had his cuts of the live action, but they hadn't done the special effects. So that's why it's 2021. They got to have time to make those effects.
What if they have like tinfoil planets and everything?
No, they have. No, it's just black. Cut scene. Cut scene. They might have a shot of a storyboard, that they could go to.
Right.
But that's what the original Star Trek: The Motion Picture that they talk about was. They shot all this stuff that needed special effects, and Robert Wise was the director, and he hadn't done that much science fiction. He had done some classic science fiction. He did The Day the Earth Stood Still, but he was known for doing The Sound of Music. So he was kind of anywhere kind of director. He could do it all, supposedly. But when it came to that movie in 1979, they kept saying, "Oh, there's an effect here. There's an effect here." Well, apparently, Gene Roddenberry got to the premiere with the wet print of the film.
Whoa.
Still wet, put through the sprockets and play because it was so delayed, and that's why a lot of people think that movie's not that good, is because there was a lot of effect scenes that they couldn't do, and then they were kind of stuck. And then they did make a director's cut, which you can find on DVD but not Blu-ray, yet again, and that's a Paramount movie. CBS, Paramount, and all you can get it on is DVD.
Well, they can re-release it. The Paramount's been doing a lot of stuff.
I know, but that's just bad form, people. Come on. Anyway, especially all the Star Trek people. You know, Star Trek people are going to buy it. They're going to buy it. They'll buy something. They'll buy two of them. They'll buy one to have, one to throw away.
Right.
They'll buy two. But the thing of it is that they don't release that.
Right.
But he did a director's cut, and they went back with digital techniques and did the effects that they couldn't do, or did the effects as they were originally planned, and it's a lot better movie. It's worth the $29.99 if you can find the DVD. That's what I think what Amazon sells it for. It's like $29.99, which is kind of high for a DVD, but it does have a lot of extras, and then it's got, but they got Robert Wise to come back because he lived to be like 90-something. And they got him to come back and help, and they had a TD do it. And they had to make a little digital Spock. There's one scene where Spock's on Vulcan, and it's a wide shot, and there's these giant statues, and they had to digitally draw Spock walking across this wide shot. And so they did that. I remember that being part of the special, features. But
On Nimoy.
So, and that was, I think, right before Nimoy passed away. So now Nimoy's gone. Robert Wise is gone. So, anyway. But they've never released that on Blu-ray.
They need to do a Vader movie before James Earl Jones passes away. I
think they just need to do him like Siri and sit him in a room and make him just read every stinking vowel.
There we go.
Every consonant and every vowel, and put it all together, just like Siri. And just let it go. Just throw gobs of money at him and make him do it, and then just there you go.
He just comes to George Lucas' house. I have James Earl Jones
throwing money at him. Just as he walks in the door, throwing money on the ground. Step up to the microphone, Mr. Jones. Just do that.
Oh. I love James Earl Jones.
He's fabulous. And have you seen Conan the Barbarian, the original Conan the Barbarian?
I have not.
He plays the bad guy. He's Thulsa Doom, and he's the bad guy. And it's him with a wig on, and he's standing there with this bowl-cut wig, and he is just the embodiment of evil. If you ever thought what, Darth Vader was supposed to look like when they pulled the mask off. Which didn't work either way, no matter, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Hayden Christensen. It ain't going to work.
That's my guy. I love Hayden.
I like Hayden Christensen. He's all right. I've seen him in some good stuff. I don't have a problem with him. But anyway, but if you go and watch the original, which is available on Blu-ray, the original Conan the Barbarian, with a script by Oliver Stone, by the way. Oliver Stone wrote the script for Conan the Barbarian. It was directed by James Milnes, who's very well known for writing other great action movie screenplays and stuff. Got Schwarzenegger in it, who doesn't talk a lot because they knew he couldn't handle it.
You mean Chris Pratt's father-in-law?
Exactly. Basically, Star-Lord's father-in-law. But, you know, but you get to see James Earl Jones really be that evil person and get to play Vader in a way.
Huh.
So he kind of gets to be, actually he's worse than Vader. The guy's, I mean, he don't like kill a bunch of little kids.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He slay younglings.
But he can make arrows out of snakes, and he shoots them and shoots people with them. He's pretty bad. They have human stew. They're having like, you know, these parties and there's human stew and stuff. There's like a hand floating in it and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's not good. So anyway, Thulsa Doom. But that's a cool movie. I actually took a girl on a date to that movie in high school, and we never went out again. That was pretty much it, because it's like probably because I sit there and watch the movie, which I'm notorious for. So it's like, well, you took me to the movies and you watched the movie.
So in this void, what is the thing you've revisited? It sounds like you've been more on a Western kick.
I'm kind of getting on a Western kick right now, and spaghetti Westerns. I like spaghetti Westerns, and I found out there were kind of a spaghetti Western novel series called Edge that was British. This is the stuff you find on the internet, people. And so I picked up a lot of like Django movies and stuff like that. I picked up like a whole set of Django movies. I picked up all the Man with No Names and all that stuff like that. So I've kind of got the beginning of the spaghetti Western genre and the end of it, which was like sometime in the mid-'60s to, I think, 1976. So about a good 10-year span. And so I picked up a bunch of movies from that for my birthday. So I've been really into that. But here lately, my sister had got me a copy of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep for my birthday, which is the Philip K. Dick science fiction book that Blade Runner is based on. And apparently things from Blade Runner 2040, which I haven't seen, which I need to see.
Blade Runner 2049, you haven't seen?
I have not seen. I know, mind blown. I need to get that in 4K.
It looks amazing.
But I need to see that. But anyway, parts of the book are in all of it, apparently. And so I read the book, and then last night I watched Blade Runner again. And I watched, there's something called The Final Cut. Well, it's available on CBS All Access right now. So I got to see it basically for my CBS All Access that I pay for anyway. And so I did watch it, and it's very dated. And I do remember watching the original. There's like 5 cuts of Blade Runner. Did you know that? There's like 5 different cuts of the film. Well, when I was growing up, because this is like when I was like, I think I just learned to drive when Blade Runner came out. But they had a cut that the studio made. Like they took it out of Ridley Scott's hands apparently, and they thought he's an idiot, and they were going to make it, you know, which, I mean, if you've seen Exodus, he didn't even read the Bible. It's you know, I got to give him points for that. You know, he's an Irish guy. He's an Irish guy, and he didn't read the Bible. You know, read that script, bud. Read that script. But anyway,
too busy being in the pubs.
So I'm not going to say, apparently, you know, or having a good time filming. So, you know, he'd done Alien, he had done all that. But anyway, they still took this movie away from him, and they recorded Harrison Ford doing a monologue over each scene, like Philip Marlowe, like a detective, and he's like, well, she was a dame on some fine pins, and she had, you know, that kind of a thing. You know, he would talk about what was coming up, and that's the cut that I saw on HBO growing up. So it's the one, you know, HBO back in the day, it was on 3 times a day. 3 times a day. So you saw a movie for a month. They weren't kidding. It was on every day, every month. So I remember watching that movie over and over, and that's just the way I know the movie. So I'm waiting for that wise-cracking detective, and then when I watched it, they didn't do any of that, and I'm like, yeah. So I've looked that Blu-ray up, because there is a Blu-ray with 5 versions on it, and it's like $20 on eBay, and I'll probably try to get that, and get that so I can have the one.
I've only seen the voiceover version.
You've only seen the one with the voiceover? Because he does kind of like go over and say, you know what's happening, you know.
Right.
And the book is so different because there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the world that they don't tell you about in the book. And that there was a world war, there's nuclear dust all over everything, all the animals have died, so every animal you see in Blade Runner is fake. Because all the animals have died. There's some animals still alive in the book, but in the movie, they even go a step further and act like everything's died. So if you see an ostrich, it's a fake ostrich. If you see a snake, it's a fake snake. And, you know, they even say in the movie, you know, do you think I could afford a real snake? If I could afford a real snake, I wouldn't be dancing in this joint. And the girl says that.
Right.
But in the book, they kind of, the guy Deckard has a electric sheep so that it looks like he has money. He has enough money to buy an electric sheep, but not a real sheep.
Right.
So anyway, and everybody in the book is supposed to kind of take in an animal and raise it and keep it healthy because the planet's dying, everybody's moved to Mars. And the replicants are around because if you move to Mars, we'll give you a replicant slave that you can have, and you can pick whatever model you want. So that's why everybody moved to Mars. And so in the books, there's not that many people on Earth, but in the movie, it's overcrowded. That kind of messes with you. So it's like, you know, which is it?
Right.
So, but that's why the guy that like works for Tyrell is living in the apartment building by himself. He has that giant rainy apartment building that he's living in.
Yes.
And it's him by himself, and actually the androids hole up in his apartment building, and that's how he finds them in the book. So it's totally different, but it's the same. It's kind of, but there's so much in the movies that they don't tell you that's in the book. The nuclear war, everybody moving to Mars, there's all this stuff that they never really mention. So it adds flavor if you go back and read those things. And people, I usually like to see the movie first and then read the book.
That way you won't be disappointed.
That way you're not disappointed. You're like, you might have those characters stuck in your head, but you're not disappointed. Well, now we're going to wrap this up. We're kind of been rambling, but you know that. That's what this whole episode's been about. And so we're going to wrap this up and do a little recommendations. I personally, like you said, I was getting into the guns and the westerns.
Absolutely.
And I picked up the Gunslinger, The Dark Tower.
Nice.
And I enjoyed it. A lot of folks have said they didn't like the movie, The Dark Tower, the Stephen King-based book series. But I thought it was really good. Idris Elba's really good in it. Matthew McConaughey. I enjoyed the story. It worked for me. I had a good time watching it. So I would highly recommend that. So.
Fantastic. Well, you've been going into westerns. I've been going into animation. So I have a Studio Ghibli film I want to recommend. It's Princess Mononoke, which came out in 1997, the year of my birth. So
now, was it an Academy Award winner?
I don't think so.
It came close. I remember it being nominated.
Right.
But it's a very good movie.
I think Spirited Away is the only Studio Ghibli film to be winner of an Academy Award, which is interesting because they're amazing, and I love that there's no main villain in the movie. It's really just conflict is the main villain, and you just see humans put in a world left to their own devices. And I like that there's not a Batman versus Joker kind of story arc. It's just people trying to deal with the forest dying or the forest taking over the world.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a great movie. I remember seeing it. I enjoyed it. And also, we both have seen the DC movie Justice League Dark, The Apocalypse War, and I give you thumbs up for that. It's a little harsher R version of the animation, but
Dark Side.
You'll enjoy it.
All-time great character.
All-time great character. Superman has to be really mean in this one, so you'll appreciate that. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We just kind of had a rambling movie man. If you would like to know anything or about any of the movies we talked about, or if you want to request any information, you got a question for us, all you got to do is there on the bottom of the screen, just go ahead and email me, eStafford@caldwellcountync.org, and we'd be happy to answer your question the next time we get together.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much, and have a great evening. See you at the movies.